Israeli forces are obliterating parts of the West Bank like Jenin, while also escalating war in Lebanon and raining terror on Palestinian civilians in Gaza. And as the world watches in horror, the United States continues to provide the bulk of the arms the IDF is using to carry out their lengthy list of war crimes. Now, the New York Times highlighted Israel's destruction of Tulkarm and Jenin, both in the West Bank, in a piece titled "Israeli Bulldozers Flatten Mile After Mile in the West Bank." The details are brutal, and so are the videos included in the piece. So why don't we jump right into it? As the Times reports, the Israeli military launched an extensive and deadly raid in the West Bank in the early morning hours of August 28th, when residents of Tulkarm and Jenin awoke to Israeli bulldozers tearing their roads apart. Water mains and sewage pipes were destroyed as a result. Now, the head of general relations for Tulkarm, Mohammed Matar, says that more than 90% of water and sewage lines have been destroyed in the town. Jenin also suffered a pretty big blow, with 70% of their roads being damaged in recent raids. 70%. Sewage and water lines were also cut, leaving about 80% of Jenin without running water, local officials said, including the main hospital. You know what they say about water: super terroristic, a big threat to the Israelis. The IDF alleges that these are just counterterrorism operations aimed at rooting out Hamas. You know, Hamas hiding in the water pipes. The military said it had found stockpiles of weapons in its recent operations in the northern West Bank, killed 23 militants and arrested 45. One Israeli soldier was killed in Jenin, it said. I don't believe any of that, especially considering the fact that the IDF identifies any young male who's Palestinian to be a Hamas militant. And so nice that the New York Times just regurgitated what the IDF told them, but I'm personally skeptical. Now, Kamal Abu al-Rub, who is the governor of Jenin, told reporters that the Israelis are just razing critical infrastructure and also gratuitously bulldozing things like soccer fields, pharmacies, and schools. Even the Times argues that visual evidence supports accounts from residents about the damage from Israel's latest raids. Videos filmed in Tulkarm and Jenin show bulldozers destroying infrastructure and businesses, and soldiers impeding local emergency responders from getting to the hospital.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
Now, rights groups that have been tracking Israeli airstrikes in the area say that the IDF has been intensifying its bombings. The director of the human rights group Al-Haq says these actions violate international law, as if international law matters at all when the IDF is the one carrying out the war crimes. They are imposing conditions materially and psychologically that make people feel Gaza is coming to you. There is a feeling among Palestinians across the West Bank that what is coming is very bad, that it will be a plan to kill and expel us. Now, that might sound overblown to some, but honestly, that is not an unwarranted fear. Israel has essentially made Gaza uninhabitable by destroying every hospital and most residential buildings. And it seems the same thing is beginning to happen in the West Bank, a Palestinian territory that has been terrorized by Israeli settlers for decades with impunity. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs and the rights group Al-Haq, after October 7th, airstrikes by drones, fighter jets, and helicopters increased rapidly, killing 41 Palestinians in August alone, more than at any point in close to 2 decades. Rami Kamal's business has been damaged in 10 separate Israeli raids since October 7th, and it costs him around $20,000 in repairs each time it happens. I think he correctly points out that these raids aren't really about finding terrorists. They didn't find terrorists the first time, the second time, the third time, fourth time. I mean, they raided his business 10 times, didn't find any terrorists, but they keep doing it. Maybe it's about hurting the daily lives of Palestinians. He says, quote, "It felt like we were targeted. That was very clear. There was an intentional effort to destroy businesses. They think they're teaching people a lesson. The army's message is no one is getting out of this without being punished. Collective punishment, also considered a violation of international law. Not that it really matters when Israel's carrying out the crimes here. Now, he's onto something because the IDF has bombed and destroyed so many buildings in several districts that they are now considered disaster zones that threaten the stability of the broader neighborhood. And much like in Gaza, the IDF is hell-bent on obstructing access to hospitals and life-saving healthcare in the West Bank. First, their raids kill or severely injure civilians. Then the IDF blocks injured Palestinians who are being rushed to the hospital. That is, if they can, find a way around the destroyed roads. Medics and municipal officials say that IDF soldiers have even surrounded hospitals and deny entry to civilian vehicles, forcing emergency vehicles and ambulances to take them to the hospitals. Now, Mohammed al-Sadi, who is the head of the Red Crescent branch in Jenin, said that calls for help increased significantly during the recent raids. But his teams, he said, failed to respond to 500 to 600 calls per day because they simply could not reach them. Now, as a result of ambulances and medics being forced to escort patients who need regular treatments like dialysis or radiation, it's causing a lot of problems. And the IDF is also, stopping and searching those ambulances. Al-Sadi said some of his teams were forced to wait for long periods of time, which, obviously risks the lives of those who are rushing to the hospital. I think that's probably the point. Medics and workers repairing damaged roads also say that IDF sometimes fires on them as well. Sari Bashi, a program director for Human Rights Watch, believes Israel's airstrikes in the West Bank violate international laws. One of our concerns is that lethal force is actually a first resort, that the Israeli military is trying to kill people as opposed to arrest them under circumstances where it's possible to arrest them. The UN office and Al-Haq have both documented more than 150 Palestinians killed by airstrikes in the West Bank since October 7th. Not just by airstrikes. There are other Palestinians who have been killed by other means. Now, finally, the dehumanization and disregard for human lives has been demonstrated by the IDF time and time again, the most moral army, of course. One of the more horrific stories to break out of the West Bank involved Israeli soldiers tossing bodies from rooftops. An Associated Press journalist in the town of Qubatia witnessed 3 members of the IDF carry out the act. Take a look.
Israeli soldiers were filmed apparently pushing 3 bodies from roofs in the occupied West Bank. The footage was obtained by the Associated Press news agency. It appears to show the soldiers push the bodies off adjacent multi-story buildings. The incident took place after a raid in the northern part of the Palestinian territory.
This particular incident, it was filmed from different angles. There are different videos, was witnessed by a local journalist there, also the AP. So that shows apparently 3 lifeless bodies. We don't know the condition of these people being dragged by Israeli soldiers towards the edge of multi-story buildings and then pushed to the ground. Now, this happened in a city just south of Jenin in the northern West Bank, where the Israeli military had carried out a raid. And the military said this is an incident that is under review now.
CBS News reports that on an adjacent rooftop, the soldiers hold another apparently lifeless body by its limbs and swing it over the edge. In a third instance, a soldier kicks a body toward the edge before it falls from view. Photos captured by the Associated Press show an Israeli army bulldozer moving near the buildings where the bodies were dropped. I mean, look, honestly, is anyone really surprised? I know that we all have super short attention spans, and I don't blame you for that. It's just the digital age, it's the way things work. But not too long ago, we were reporting on Israeli soldiers literally digging up the graves of Palestinians in Gaza and then tossing them into a mass grave, desecrating the bodies of Palestinians that had already been victimized by this very moral army. So would anyone be surprised that they would literally toss bodies from rooftops in the West Bank? And by the way, they're able to behave and act with impunity, no consequences. The government of Israel keeps getting rewarded by American weapons sent by the American government. Why would they change their behavior? Look, I don't know if Joe Biden is even cognizant of the fact that this is his legacy now. He not only greenlights the horrific death and destruction of Palestinians, he financially and militarily supports it. The man who campaigned on being the kind and decent alternative to Donald Trump has overseen the slaughter of tens of thousands of children who are trapped in a small strip of land that's being bombed to smithereens. Obviously, that's Gaza. Our esteemed president took tens of billions of our dollars and funneled it to a government that systematically commits unspeakable atrocities. Israel has made an embarrassment out of Biden. But as he aids and abets the slaughter of children, we're supposed to thank him for stepping aside so a more competitive candidate, Kamala Harris, can run in the presidential race. Nah, I thank Biden for nothing. The only thing that gives me a tiny bit of solace is knowing that his decades-long political career is ending in humiliation. Humiliated by his own debate performance, humiliated domestically by his inability to fight for his own policies, humiliated on the world stage by a literal war criminal like Benjamin Netanyahu, who never misses an opportunity to debase Biden. Kamala Harris should see this as a teachable moment. Should she get elected, chances are she will feel tempted to follow in Biden's footsteps. But she should ask herself what she wants her legacy to be. Because it'd be a real shame if the first female president ended up being a global embarrassment like Biden is.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.